those who don't know, my name is Olivia Gudaniec, and today we're going to be joined with Jenny J, who is a photo and video creator. So this video is for all of you that are shooting video content at home and alone. So if that's you, give me a thumbs up, let me know you're here. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I am good. I am just, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to learn how to get your lighting right and to learn how to do videos. So,
absolutely. So today we're going to focus on lighting and as well as backgrounds. So I've positioned myself on a blank wall because we all have that white wall with nothing on it.
Yep.
And even if you do, like I usually have like a painting here, I just took it down because we want a nice, clean, professional look because we're representing our brands, right?
Absolutely. Okay, I want to see. Like, let's see. You have gear. So I know that not everyone does have gear and lights and stuff, but I feel like a lot of people have like made purchases and have these lights and don't know what to do with them. So show me what you've got.
Okay, and everyone's pretty much on Amazon these days shopping. So a lot of this stuff is from Amazon. If anybody wants anything, I've got links to everything. So, and it's all like affordable. I've just been collecting over time because I've been doing video and you should too. Okay, so I've got 2 of these LED lights.
Okay, cool.
And they are.
Can you change the color temperature on them?
No, but they are dimmable, and I have not gels, I guess gels for them.
Okay, to change like what color they feel like?
Exactly.
Cool.
So I've got 2 of these.
Amazing.
But I just want to stick with like 3 lights. I don't want to complicate the situation. So we'll use one little one. We've got one bigger one, which is like 2 of these.
Okay.
And then I've got a soft box, which you'll also see here. But this one needs to be plugged in to
a wall. Cool.
Whereas the others are like battery run and a little easier to navigate.
And then for natural light, because I know that you're in front of a window. Let's do the window. Can we?
So that's like our first tip for everybody, guys.
The window is right in front of you, right?
Yes. My whole wall here is all window.
Amazing. Okay, so the one thing that I would say first and foremost is that I think when you're thinking about lights, like 3-point lighting setups are a very traditional, like easy to do and kind of almost a go-to for most photographers and videographers. But you can do it with one and then you can start adding in the pieces, right? So it totally depends on like the time of day and how bright your room is. You're super lucky. Like you don't have any lights on and this is already a perfect setup.
Yeah, like for a lot of my YouTube videos, people think like I'm using all this stuff because I have it, but it's easier just to leave it like it is, right?
Exactly. And you've already done the first thing, which a lot of people make the mistake of actually sitting next to the window instead of directly in front of it, right? So you've already got that down. Like, this looks great. Because when you're sitting in front of the window instead of beside it, you're avoiding those harsh shadows that start to come on your face, right? So if you were to increase or change your lighting setup, if you were to do something like a 3-point system, what that really looks like is having one main one coming in at about 45 degrees, a little bit closer. And another one that's a little farther away from 45 degrees on the other side to kind of fill in those shadows. Okay. And then one more light that's behind you that's going to light up your backdrop. And that's assuming that your backdrop isn't white, right? So since you have a white wall, you don't actually really need to light that up because it's already reflecting all of that beautiful window sunlight and going to be really nice and bright. So you've already got great things going, but what I want to check and double check is can you turn those lights on? Because what color are they?
Oh, these lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just like a...
Okay, perfect. So that one's like a nice daylight.
Nice
Okay.
That's for that one. This one, I guess, is kind of the same.
Okay. A little hard to see from the side, but I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna take your word.
And that one's not plugged in, but it's all. I think it's more on the cooler side. Like there's no yellow to it. Like if I turn my overhead lights on, I think you'd start getting those shadows. So we never want to turn on those overhead lights.
We do not. We don't want the shadows coming in from above, like pot lights, overhead lights. Those are things we don't want. And the other thing too, though, is we don't want to mix color temperatures.
Right.
So if you know that light over there is a really cool one, you actually don't want to be using it with the other two that are perfectly in sync, right? So there are these little things that start to improve the quality of your videos, and lighting is like, you can have a not great camera, you can be filming on your phone, and as long as you have good lighting, like if you watch some of the videos that are like walkthroughs of like DJI's newest like camera system, and you're like walking through in the daylight, and it's like next to the iPhone 10, and they look exactly the same. The only reason they look so good and like look so professional side by side is because those test videos are done in perfect lighting.
Yeah, lighting, I mean, you can have the worst skin even, and lighting can just make it look flawless. So take the time, guys, and let's learn how to do this.
Yeah, so the one thing I would recommend is if you take that big light over there right behind your head, and if that light is going to be your key light, in general, you want your main lights to be to the side and also just slightly above. Because you want to remember, like the thing about ring lights, and a lot of people have ring lights, I know a lot of people use them, but the thing about ring lights is that they're usually directly in front of your face. And yes, that kind of gets rid of the shadows, but it also kind of gets rid of the depth that we're so used to seeing on people's faces.
Right.
So you want to like have it just slightly above and to the side. And that's usually when you're going to get like a little bit of dimension, and don't be afraid to also have that, right? I think we've seen so many beauty bloggers and their Instagrams or YouTube channels and are so used to now like that direct light in front. That okay.
So maybe you need to lower it. That's the thing too. Like a lot of clients come to me and they're like, as soon as I start setting it up, like they're by themselves. So it's hard to just like go back without having somebody like stand in, adjust it perfect, and then go. So that pressure of like, okay, this light is obviously too bright. Now I have to go back. Now I have to bring in another one to even it out. So it's just like the frustration, you know?
The one thing that I could easily recommend is if you can, I know some stores are closed right now, but like when you're able to go to a dollar store and get yourself a Bristol board that matches your skin tone. That's like one of the easiest hacks, to put it in front of your camera and just see how it's looking on that Bristol board. So then you can start testing out, oh, okay, like this is too bright for my skin tone, or I need to adjust it. The other thing I would say, like when you're looking at this setup here, you're going to want to have another light that's filling in those shadows on the other side. Yeah, so you see how you're starting to see the shadows on like the right behind you. Yeah. So you'd probably want to use your not your softbox, that's a different color. That one, yeah. And point it not directly at your face, but kind of right behind you.
Sorry, behind me, or?
There we go. That's perfect. Yes. So you're not pointing it directly at your face, but pointing it towards where the shadows are falling.
Okay. So I need to adjust that a touch.
Also, Tanya says the dollar stores are open, so is Walmart. Clearly, I have not gone outside. So if you're willing to brave the dollar stores that are open and the Walmarts, Bristol boards are probably one of your favorite things when you're doing this yourself.
I have one too. I was also gifted a reflector.
Oh my goodness, you have all the things.
Show us how to use it.
The reflector, so what you have to remember, like you have a lot of the gear that a lot of people don't actually have when they're at home. That is a bomb.com reflector. And what you're actually using right now is the diffuser part. So you haven't put on the cover, right? So if your lighting is actually way too bright from outside because you're in front of the window, that's a great thing to put in front of your window to actually soften that a little. The thing about like filming when you're filming directly on Instagram, like even right now, is that it can easily be overexposed, especially on Instagram, because you don't have that kind of control, right?
Yes, like sometimes you can tap it, guys, if like you feel you're totally washed out on Instagram, just tap the photo and sometimes it adjusts, but it's
It's not the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
And I guess like even with the last thing I would say with your setup here, like you've got a great setup because you have so many of the pieces. But I would remind people like don't be like too close to the wall. I think that's like such a like yeah, I would actually move a little bit forward. So if you can, like having distance between where your source of light is, where you are, and then where your background or backdrop is, that's usually the best way to get a really clean image because you're going to avoid all those shadows that start happening. And like one of the biggest things that people like get like completely just don't even realize is that those shadows are actually making the image or the video look just like not as flattering as it could be.
Yeah, for sure. So should I move this somewhere else? Like I keep hearing about like lighting the background, but I know you said because it's a white background, it doesn't need that separation. Like
it doesn't necessarily need that. If you want to add a little bit like make it a little bit more dynamic, you can always test it out, right? So that's the thing. There are like very signature like 3-point lighting setups that you can do, and it really depends on the space you're using. Like in and of itself, you have a beautiful space, and with those 2 lights, you've already got a great setup. Now, let's say you were filming this in a dark room, that would be a very different story. Right?
Okay, so why don't I close the blinds here?
Okay.
Like shutters, and let's see what happens.
Let's like turn off the lights.
Yeah, like not everybody has like. That's why I'm lucky to have this room, but I'm gonna be moving, and I'm not gonna have that. So how's it gonna look, right? So let me just close my shutters, and let's see.
Right. Close them away. Lights are going down.
Okay, this is so now the setup's a little.
Okay.
We got some stuff going on.
We got some stuff. We got some harsh shadows. We've got some glare going on your face. So, Tanya, I can definitely recommend a few other things, but yes, there is a basic setup, and like I really want to emphasize that, Olivia, like you've got the gear, like you've got the things to play around with. And it's really amazing that you do. And like a lot of the stuff is super affordable now, like compared to what
this guy's $30. I can send a link to all my resources. Like it's not gonna break the bank, but it really can make a difference. But really all you need, even though I have all this stuff, is windows.
Yeah, if you've got access to windows and even house lamps, you can make it absolutely work with house lamps, which is a whole nother thing that I can get into later. But yeah, so what you want to make sure you're doing is fixing those shadows. So I don't know if you can actually move your desk or anything right now, but one of the easiest ways, first and foremost, is to really create that distance. So if you have the ability to
jam, to move you guys, right?
Yeah. So if you have the ability to move like where you're filming a little bit further away, and then have like the light, like the distance should be like, this is light, this is you, this is background, right? Okay. So you're gonna have to move a little bit closer. And do you see how like the shadows are getting farther out now? Like as you move closer and as there's more distance. So that's something that, again, like you'd have to, I feel like, adjust a few things. But if you can't, and if you don't have the space, this is where you can actually light up your background. Because when you add the light to your background, that's gonna also fill in some of those shadows.
Okay, so I'm gonna use this light without any tripod, anything. So if somebody just has like a regular light bulb on a little. So should I put this on the floor?
For the background?
To light up the back?
Yeah, you can put it on the floor and like point it upwards.
Okay.
Also, I'm laughing at Jam saying this is hella beneficial. Who does this in a live? Listen, I have so much more than this to offer. Like, I'm sure some of you know I am having a workshop this weekend, and like if you think this is gold, just wait. Okay, so now you're starting to light up the background a little bit more. This isn't necessarily perfect. And one of the other, like honestly, it is a-okay, because a lot of the times if you're trying to do this kind of lighting setup with multiple lights, it actually almost gets a little bit more complicated sometimes, because you start having those shadows and you start having to fix and adjust. And one of the biggest things is you have to actually have the patience to sit there and move things around and be like,
That's
listen,
the thing.
once I figure it out in my home, like, I'm not moving. I know exactly where it goes. And a lot of the times people don't actually even have the energy or capacity to be like, okay, let me figure this out. Let me do this.
Especially when you're doing it by yourself. Like, I can put up one light, the second light, and then it just starts getting more complicated. So it's just like, no lights. Here's the window. Let's go.
Exactly. So why don't we do that? Why don't we turn the lights off, let's open up the window, and let's just show people, because I want people to see, like, you can nail this, but honestly, like, trying to nail this particular setup with 3 lights is a process that takes a little bit of trial and error and understanding your shadows. Right? So even as we're looking right now, wait, sit for 1 second.
Oh, okay. I was gonna start. Okay.
I was actually gonna say, like, as you're seeing, like, right now, like, you have the shadows on the side of your face. We have shadows on the wall. Like, these are things that we would want to notice and want to know how to fix. Versus now, if you go turn off the lights and open the window.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right, look at that light coming in. Turn it out.
Yeah. One more light needs to come off. And
yeah. And then we can, like, move the other light out of the way so we can see the backdrop.
Exactly.
Amazing.
I know, like, this is just so easy as long as you
look at
the evenness. Like, your work is done.
But see, like, I just think there's, like, this is so easy to do. You literally just, like, opened your blinds. And I do get it. Not everyone has access to beautiful, like, full windows. Some people live in basement apartments and they're doing their thing. And when you have low lighting conditions, you have to put in so much more work. And Naffy's knocking a hole in her brick wall to let that light in. Yeah, just open her up, you know? But I think that the thing is like, when we're struggling with trying to figure out which lights and what lights and how to put them and where to put them, the biggest thing you really want to look at is the shadows that are happening on your face, really. And, like, is it too harsh? Is it too much? Like, sometimes, like, I see videos and I just want to give the person a hug and then also tell them it's okay, you can turn your light down. Like, you don't want to have those unflattering, like, harsh bits of light coming onto your face. So even if you do have lights that are super great, one of the easiest ways just to brighten up the room a little bit is, like, point it towards the ceiling. Let the light fall on you. Like, make it soft instead of directly having it, like, right on your face and creating some of those harsh lines.
So you're saying, because, like, these lights are on tripods, but they're not able to face the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just took a light off of the tripod, I can face it up to the ceiling.
Yes. And
this is going to do what?
It's just going to make the space brighter and let it fall down on you. But it's got to be super close to the ceiling.
Oh, okay. I'm just like, ooh, what's going to happen?
Because remember, like you have a reflector, anything that's a white wall is going to, like, bounce light, right? So you're really playing with it in terms of, like, figuring out, like, how are you bouncing light and what are you doing? And it can get a little more technical, but it first begins with starting to see stuff like that and then making the changes that you know you need to inside of whatever space you're using.
And I know what's trending right now is wallpapering your ceilings. So maybe if you're shooting in a specific room, don't wallpaper it so you can have the access to bounce light off the ceiling, right?
You need white ceilings.
Exactly.
So absolutely.
And what about, like, somebody that does not have a white wall? Let's say they've got, like, tie-dye or something. Would you suggest going in front of it or just always finding a neutral wall? I mean, I'm all for neutrals, but
I'm 100%.
You've got color, like.
I'm here for the neutrals. Like, I mean, I do have color. I do. I'm here for yellow as well. But the thing is that you need to remember, like, color is such, like every color has a different way that it chooses to reflect light, right? If I'm gonna sit in front of this yellow, like you better be assured that my face is gonna be a lot warmer than if I was sitting in front of a different color. And I'm super cool with that because I've got melanin and yellow is gonna make my face look great. Versus like if I was sitting in front of a blue wall and my face does not look cute in front of a blue wall. Like we don't do that.
We don't mesh.
Yeah, we don't. So like I think it's really also like you got to know where you're shooting. You got to know what your intentions are. You got to find a space that works for you, and you have to be willing to experiment. And I think like that's like such a huge thing that people are easily overwhelmed with even the idea of video, let alone, oh my goodness, I have to move things in my house. Like, nah, it's a no for me.
Because people just want to like feel comfortable with what they're saying and get their message across. But once you start thinking about lights, it's just a whole other ballpark. You know what I mean? Of technical things that people don't want to worry about. That's why I think people see the value of hiring a team. But of course, we're in quarantine right now. You're shooting video alone. If you guys have questions about the process, we're trying to answer as many as we can. And also, a lot of people, let's say they don't want to buy lights at all. Let's say they want to use like their bedside lamp. Where would you suggest they put that in order to kind of like either create a mood or even light themselves?
Just think about the sun. Like that's like the biggest thing I could tell you. Like a lot of the mistakes happen because we're treating lights not the way that we understand to see them, right? And we feel good about the images that feel natural. And if you're trying to do something moody and you're trying to do something specific, that's a different ballgame. Like play with the shadows, do all the things. But if you are just working with stuff like that, like you're going to want to try to use it as much as possible as if it were sunlight. Then again, if you're like one of my friends who only has Himalayan salt lamps,
I brought one too. Wait,
no! I can't do much with the Himalayan salt lamp.
I've never used it in video, but I'm like, you know what? This is what people have at home, right?
That is so true. Himalayan salt lamps are great little like accent pieces to have in the background if you have like a desk. Ashima feels attacked. It is 100% my friend Ashima who is currently watching this, so I love you. But yeah, if you have like Himalayan salt lamps, it's a great like accent piece to your background and your space.
So you don't think it would look weird if I had one on the floor and there was some like orange like
it's a no for me on that front. Like I can't help you if you only have Himalayan salt lamps at home. That's when I would tell you that you probably should head on Amazon, like $30, get yourself a freaking light. Like just if you know that your lighting situation is rough, like here's the other thing. If you know it's rough, you can't expect like a magical solution without making a purchase. And if you know you have things that you can like make work, cool, amazing, you can make that work. You don't have to spend your $30. But if you only have Himalayan salt lamps as your source of lighting, that is definitely a mood, such an aesthetic. Might want to change that for video.
And also I want to throw out another tip for those watching. If you've got like a lot of light, like I do, sometimes it does get harsh. If you even have like curtains that are kind of like see-through, kind of like this, like anything to just like break down that light will make you guys look like goddesses.
100%.
You know what I mean? So it's just like any tips and tricks like that. Or if you do have like a really harsh light, putting even like parchment paper over it kind of just diffuses the light.
Yeah, you want to think of it like that's why they say you want to shoot on days that are cloudy, right? The clouds act like a giant softening of light. And so really when you're thinking about it, is your light harsh or is your light soft? And as you start thinking about things from that perspective, like no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you'll have it down. You'll have it figured out. Parchment paper is an excellent idea. So
I mean, I've got so many little things that I don't even think about anymore because I use them on the daily. But having to do this live and kind of like break it down for people is really getting those creative juices going. So let's quickly talk about backgrounds. Let's say I want to start shooting something and it's completely bare. What can I do to kind of enhance it just a little bit to kind of either get my personality across or my business and my brand?
I would just say think about who you're doing this for, right? If this is like a super simple, I'm just like teaching you something and you need to listen to what I'm teaching, you can keep it simple. Otherwise, like don't feel like you need to just have a plain white wall, right? Like some of the best backgrounds are like when you're in an office space and you see like the bookshelf behind you and you see something, and that's where you're getting that personality across, right? When you look at most YouTubers, they actually have like something going on, but that something going on can't be distracting. I think that's the important thing. Like I can't be distracted by whatever's happening behind you.
Yeah, your message needs to come across first. So what
100%.
I always do is I make sure whatever is around my head, no plants, nothing that's going to be growing horns,
no
pictures, like keep this area as empty as possible. And now I'm just like trying to experiment with like little details here and there, but I don't have the luxury of having a room just for filming. So I'm not going to put things on my wall for a YouTube video. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what I've been trying to incorporate is like a little table here with like a candle, or I don't know, my salt lamp.
What? I'm not gonna candle salt lamps. My mom has a lot of salt lamps. I have a soft spot for the Himalayan salt lamps. Okay, that's just not your main lighting source.
No. It's just little accent pieces. But like, would you recommend investing in either like a background like you have, like just a color to spice things up, or what's something we can do without drilling it to the wall?
So the backgrounds that I have, I love. And the one thing I would say with that is that you have to have the luxury of having space to be able to have them. And like, if you don't have that, like play around with things like Bristol board papers, like play around with things like that, where you can just like tape it to a wall, doesn't need to be drilled in, and it still can spice things up. Totally also depends on how much of the room or like whatever is behind you people are seeing. So you want to really like start thinking about those things as you're creating your space. I apologize for the salt lamp haterade that's currently flowing. Listen, just like you need to know like what is your personality? Is your personality a bright yellow backdrop and nothing else? Great. That's all you need. Is your personality going to show up in the clothes that you wear? Because if you have like things happening physically with you, then you don't even need to worry about what's going on behind you.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you want a few little details that show off like your brand or your brand colors, like things like that, then you're gonna like easily like add them in beside you, add them in behind you, just little details. Just make sure it's not distracting.
For sure. And I've been hearing some of my clients put up like fabric, like shiny fabric, or even like twinkly lights. But again, you need either like a rod or something. It doesn't have to be drilled in. Or if you do want to invest in a little space in your house, you can even like hang a curtain rod, because you only need like 2 little drilled holes. You got the rod.
There are those curtain rods that like suction. Those are the ones I've got. Those are my favorite. Don't even have to drill a hole.
Or that, right? You guys got to just get a little bit creative, or even hanging a sheet of fabric and just putting like a little pin or a tack. You know what I mean? But again, that's a little more work, and you have to like experiment with that. But it can make or break the mood and the atmosphere. So it's all about what you want to portray. And I mean, I'm okay with just a white wall, but a lot of people think that's boring. But when I'm shooting my videos, I like to put text. So that kind of spices things up. But then again, now we're going into editing, and that's another area. But
I think
like the process.
When we're talking about like lighting and backdrop and all of this stuff, this is the stuff that like once you've got a hang of like being confident on screen, like right, like we got to go through the steps. And so like for anyone who's tuning in who's never created a video before, it's okay. Like this stuff, you might be like, nah, I'm not moving. Like there's
I'm just getting through it.
Yeah, like none of this 3-point lighting system. And you know what? That's totally cool. But you have to figure out like what is the process? Where are you at? And then when you're like, okay, I'm comfortable on camera. I can do this. I know how to just simply set it up and be in a good spot. I know how to do the editing process, right? I know how to do these things. Now let's add a little bit of spice. Let's bring in that Himalayan salt lamp and the candle and
These
the
are just the extras.
Yeah, exactly. So just really understanding like where are you coming from? Like what are you trying to do? And like what level are you at? And being really like confident in knowing that, and starting to like put that into action.
100%. And also, you guys, if you are shooting and you don't clean up a little bit around you, I know it's kind of like annoying that you have to think about that, but how bad would it look if like my sweater was just like hanging here while we're having a conversation? So like those little details matter. Like sometimes I'm paranoid about those little crystals here because it's also like it's drawing attention, but I thought it would be okay and natural for this live to like have this here and that. But when I'm shooting content, I try to keep it as like clean and precise like as possible, just for the viewers. So they're looking at you, your message, and again, once you're comfortable with that, I'm at a point now where I don't mind putting little twinkly lights, but it's
Exactly.
It
You
takes
want
some
to
experimentation.
it does. It does. 100%. And like there are a million different ways that you can bring your personality to the table. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think that's the thing. Like in our heads, we think it's really overwhelming. We think like, not for me, like too technical, too much, too
Especially
expensive.
when you're by yourself, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just like, it's too much at once.
Honestly, when you're by yourself, though, that's probably my favorite time to figure this stuff out because no one is looking at me. No one is judging me. Like, I don't have, like, side eye from... Actually, I don't really get side eye, but like I just don't feel the presence, you know? Like sometimes it's almost better and easier when you don't feel the presence of someone else and you can just let yourself do your thing and find your flow. So
yeah,
like
no one's like, let's go, I'm here to help you.
No one's like, I really want to wash the dishes. Like, can I like put something in the cupboard yet? Like, you know, so you don't have any of that when you are by yourself and trying to manage it. So yeah.
Amazing. So before I let you go, two more things. What's one thing you're struggling with or experimenting with video right now? I want to know. And then number two, tell us a little bit about your workshop that's coming up this weekend.
Ooh, what am I struggling with in video right now?
Or experimenting with, or just trying to add a different element?
I think for me, like when it comes to like trying different elements, what I actually play a lot with is like cinematography on like a very documentary style thing. So like that's the side of me that I'm like, okay, what can I test? Like how can we make an interview like seem even more dynamic and even more beautiful? So I think like that's the kind of stuff that I am playing around with a lot more. I think documentary film, like as a completely different genre outside of creating for your business,
Yes.
like documentary film is something that's becoming more and more cinematic. Like we see beautiful, like Becoming came out yesterday. Like I've seen the trailer and that's it. And beautiful.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you for showing up.
Yep. Turn on those salt lamps. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Go in front of natural light, guys. That's all you need. That's all I have.
Throw the salt lamps like out the window, you know.
If you want to know any of the gear I used today, all very affordable, all on Amazon. I don't mind sharing that. And yeah, have a wonderful day. If you guys have questions, message Jenny, message me. We'd be honored to help you guys.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. If you guys enjoyed that video, let me know. I would love to hear from you. I'll talk to you soon.